Premier League Game Week 28 predictions. After a weekend off for the FA Cup, we are fully back this weekend with a full list of fixtures in the Premier League. Loads of more great action to look forward to. So let's get straight into these predictions. No faffing around. First up, potentially, what a game to start the weekend at 12:30 on Saturday. Nottingham Forest host Manchester City at the City Ground. Forest, of course, in the last Premier League game, a nil-nil draw with Arsenal. I feel like I didn't say that clear enough. And Manchester City coming away with a decent but rare win away to Spurs. I'm going to be honest, I don't think Forest recently are showing the same level of what they have been for the vast majority of this season. Manchester City, of course, have their problems, especially defensively. I do expect Forest, being the home side here, to create chances and to score. But I'm not as convinced with Forest that they will stay in around the top 4 or 5 that maybe I was a few weeks ago. Even that game against Ipswich during the week in the FA Cup, granted, a couple of their players were not starting in, but I thought they looked poor. I thought they looked lackluster. Obviously, I wasn't watching that game live against Arsenal. By all accounts, a draw was a fair result, but they didn't create much there. It was more of, a defensive job and kind of holding on to the point. Manchester City, look, they always have their threats going forward. I think Marmoush will continue to be a very good signing for them. Haaland is obviously going to score you goals. And I'm leaning here, I'm going to be real, towards a big win for Manchester City. I think Forest are going to score in this game, as I said, but I believe Forest's kind of bad run of form or slide of sorts continues. Forest 1, Manchester City 2. Next up, the 3 o'clocks. We have two teams in very good form. Brighton hosting Fulham, two teams that progressed to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup at the weekend. Two teams who are in really good form in the Premier League as well. I mean, obviously Brighton in the FA Cup going away to Newcastle and getting over the line in extra time. Fulham away to Manchester United in a game that you probably would have fancied them in, but they continue to impress. Last time out in the Premier League, Brighton had a good win against Bournemouth. Fulham had a decent win against Wolves, and yeah, this is going to be a tough game. I kind of feel already, just looking at it, a draw is written all over it. Sometimes Brighton's home form can be a little bit up and down, especially in games maybe that you might say that they're favourites in. But Fulham have their threats here. Brighton have their threats. I feel like Brighton are just starting to really kind of level up and get into a stride under Fabian Hürzeler. So if I was to edge somebody to win in this game, I would go Brighton. But I'm going to sit on the fence and say Brighton 1, Fulham 1. Next up, we have Palace hosting Ipswich Town. Palace continued their great form in the FA Cup with a comfortable win over Millwall. Last time out in the Premier League, absolutely smashed Aston Villa 4-1 at Selhurst Park. Ipswich, last time out in the Premier League, obviously getting knocked out to Forest in the FA Cup on penalties. Obviously, quite unluckily during the week. But last time out against Manchester United at Old Trafford, they were 3-2 losers. And look, Ipswich can have a couple of performances here and there where, they're not a terrible side. As I said previously, I think McKenna's a good manager and he's doing okay with the resources and the team he has there. But Palace, a bit like as I mentioned with Brighton previously, I feel like they're really hitting their stride now in the last number of weeks, number of months even. I'm not sure if Mateta will be available for this game, obviously after what happened against Millwall. Hopefully he is, but I would imagine it will be a few weeks out at least. But Palace look good lately, and I think they get the win here, and I think they get the win here comfortably. I'm going to say 2-0 Palace. Next up, we have top of the table Liverpool hosting bottom of the table Southampton at Anfield. This one is surely very, very cut and dry. I would as a Liverpool fan, like to see a couple of players rested for this game. That's not any disrespect to Southampton. It's just that a couple of players who have been fantastic so far this season have looked a little bit tired in the last recent maybe month or something. I don't think we need our full team to win this game. Obviously, last time out at St. Mary's, it was a tough game. I think Liverpool underestimated Southampton in that game. I think Liverpool were a bit complacent in that game. Since that, I think that has been taken out of this team fully, which it has to be. I mean, regardless of what opposition you come up against, you need to be professional. Southampton have not showed anything more in recent weeks. They're just after back-to-back 4-0 losses against Brighton at home and Chelsea away. I fancy Darwin Núñez to start in this game, and I fancy him to score. I'm going to say Liverpool 3, Southampton 0. Next up, the evening game, 5:30, we have Brentford taking on Aston Villa at the G-Tech Stadium. Brentford, who have been in good form themselves recently. They've looked better, especially away from home, which is something that they were really struggling with earlier on in the season. Their home form has always been good this season. They were pegged back in the last game against Everton from being 1-0 up to a 1-1 draw. Villa, with obviously a fantastic win away in Belgium during the week against Bruges. Previous to that, they had a really poor result away to Palace, which I've already mentioned, 4-1 loss, and they beat Cardiff at home 2-0 in the FA Cup. Aston Villa have not won a game this season after the weekend after playing in the Champions League during the week. And I think that's going to tell here again. I think Brentford, the likes of Vissa, the likes of Mbeumo are playing really good. The last while, Damsgaard, I think, is having a really, really good season. He's got 10 or 11 assists. I think going forward at the moment, Brentford are starting to really cook a little bit. And I think they're going to get the win here. I'm going to say Brentford win this by 2-1. Finally, on Saturday, we have Wolves taking on Everton at Molineux. Wolves, who are a little bit up and down in their results as of late. Couple of decent performances, not maybe coming out with what they should have. 1 or 2 wins. They do look better than what they did previously. Obviously, this season, Cunha has been unbelievable. He was sent off against Bournemouth. I'm not sure if this carries into this game. You can let me know in the comments about that, any Wolves fans. Everton have been fantastic under David Moyes. I mean, even last time out against Brentford looked like they were going to lose. And pulled out a draw from the fire in a game really that Brentford absolutely dominated. I think this is a draw written all over it. I'm not going to lie. If this was at Goodison, I'd probably back Everton for the win, but I'm going to say this has a few goals. I'm going to say Wolves 2, Everton 2. On to Sunday's games, we have Chelsea hosting Leicester at Stamford Bridge. Leicester continue to look more and more doomed every week. Chelsea, obviously last time out in the Premier League, a good 4-0 win up against Southampton, which was to be expected. Southampton and Leicester look like two teams right now who are just waiting for the end of the season. I know Leicester have only, I say only, but it's about a 5-point gap to safety, but there just looks to be nothing in that team going forward, and especially defensively. I can't see Chelsea having any problems here. I'm going to go. And I think Leicester players, actually, to add to that, you can see more kind of dropped heads within their performances as well. I was watching that game on the Friday against Brentford, and it could have been any score really Brentford wanted in that game. It was 3-0 in 30 minutes, or maybe even less. Comfortable win for Chelsea. And I think Palmer is going to get back within the goals in this game. I'm going to say Chelsea win this 4-0. Also at 2 o'clock, we have Spurs taking on Bournemouth. This could be a really, really tasty game. I'm not sure what's going to be on TV, but I hope it's this one, because we all know what's going to happen in that Chelsea-Leicester game. Spurs and Bournemouth could be good. Spurs, obviously, last time out, 1-0 loss at home to Manchester City. Manchester City side, who we all know have not been very good this season, but it's still not a disgrace to lose against them. Spurs' form before that was significantly better than it has been pretty much all season. They've got a few of their players back, and they do look better. Bournemouth really need a result here. For the first time in, it feels like, all season probably, or maybe. They're off the back of 2 consecutive losses in the Premier League to Wolves at home, in which Zabarni got the red card early on, and Brighton away. And look, no disgrace losing to Brighton away, absolutely, but Wolves is a game. Obviously, with the red card, you need to put it into context, but they would not certainly been expecting to take no points out of. I'm going to be real and say this game has goals. I can see it not, especially with Bournemouth's threat going forward. Spurs have looked better going forward. As of late, they were unlucky. If they were a bit more clinical against Manchester City, they would have got a goal or two and potentially a result out of. I'm going to go maybe slightly bold. You determine how bold this is. I don't think it's that bold, really, because I do think Bournemouth are a good side. I'm going to say Bournemouth win this. I'm going to say Bournemouth win this 3-1. Finally, on Sunday, we have Manchester United taking on Arsenal at Old Trafford. If you look at the form book for this game, there is absolutely no question who is going to win. But let's be real, the form book never matters at all in these games. Look at Liverpool at Anfield against Manchester United earlier on this season. Manchester United have just been knocked out the cup at home against Fulham, and they struggled against Ipswich, albeit with 10 men. They did well in the end to get the victory, even though Ipswich are a championship team, let's be real, even at this stage. Arsenal coming off a fantastic win during the week against PSV in the Champions League. A very poor PSV performance as well, and I think a team that proved to be a lot worse than people thought. Other than that, Arsenal have not been in fantastic form themselves. Look, Arsenal are obviously favourites for this, but I just always believe United turn up against the bigger sides. They do, and I believe that United need something to go in their way, so they will be wanting to win this every bit as much as any of the Arsenal players. They need a performance, Manchester United. I said they're going to win during the week, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to say United win this 2-1. You can call me crazy coming back to this after the game if Arsenal batter them, but I can see that happening. This will be a close game, and I genuinely think it will happen. And I think during the week, Arsenal and PSV, as I have already mentioned, especially with their goals, I think it was just a flash in the pan, because ultimately their forwards right now, even with Saka there, needs a lot of work. But without the likes of Saka, I see them struggling from here to the end of the season with goals. Absolutely, it's a formality, but we'll see what happens. I'm going 2-1 anyway, Manchester United. Finally then, on Monday at 8 o'clock, we have West Ham hosting Newcastle at the London Stadium. Newcastle obviously getting knocked out the cup by Brighton at the weekend, and just previous to that, lost to Liverpool 2-0 at Anfield. West Ham, for the first time in what feels like ages, coming off 2 wins in a row in the Premier League, away to Arsenal and home to Leicester. I think, again, there's goals in this, and Newcastle certainly need points, especially after losing 2 out of their last 3 in the league. And I do believe they get something here, but I believe West Ham get something here as well. I think this is another nailed-on draw, and I'm going to say West Ham 2, Newcastle 2. Anyway, that is my Premier League predictions for Game Week 28. Make sure to let me know yours in the comments. Let me know if you agree or disagree with mine. Let me know your score predictions for Manchester United and Arsenal. Do you think that I am crazy saying that United will win? I'll either look like a genius on Sunday or an absolute clown. A lot of people would say that that's not the first time with the latter. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more and you are new. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Cheers.